Arsenal, where is your head with Arsenal at the moment? Because the other night, the Villarreal situation, they get to the final, Arsenal go out of the Europa League. On Friday, there was an almighty pile-on from Arsenal fans coming on to us. Perry was here, Bob was here, and we were talking about Mikel Arteta. Is he the right man for the job? Am I right in thinking you have done something of a U-turn on Arteta because you thought at the start, the right man, give him time? Do you still think that?
No. I think it's the obvious and correct thing to do is to let someone evolve in the job and see how they do. And I thought very early on there looked to be some really clever improvements in terms of the way they were coached, the way they were set up, the commitment they were giving to the games I was watching. But over time, I've seen lots of Arsenal. I've seen a lot of Arsenal games, and I've seen a demise in the levels. Not so much the commitment, but the tactical displays, the at times repetitive mistakes made by Arteta in picking the same players who continually let him down. Now, he could argue his squad depth, but I think he's got enough quality. I don't think there is enough quality in the Arsenal squad to be sitting in a much healthier position than they are. So he has to take responsibility for that, and he's been in the job a long time now. To be sitting where they are in the league, to be going out to Villarreal in the way they went out, I think it's too much too soon for him. It's become a job that he looks like he's struggling with. He looks stressed. He's on the touchline, for example. You are looking at a manager who continually is dishing out orders. He's frantic. You know, this calm Arteta, this articulate Arteta, we see it. He's lost that. I don't see that. I see someone on the touchline really struggling with the pressure. I think it's transferring to his players. I think too many times they've played on the back foot, too worried about sitting in, tactically being hard to beat, not playing with any freedom, an Arsenal team of the past with energy, creativity, letting the leash off a little bit. They've gone backwards.
So Arteta has gone. And yet the Arsenal board, Danny, look like they're going to keep him going into next season.
They probably will. It looks like they probably will, because it will probably cost them a fortune to bring someone else, and they don't like putting their hands in the pockets. If it wasn't for Arsenal's superb young players, they'd be in a bigger world of trouble than they're in already.
Yeah.
Talking about Saka, Emile Smith-Rowe,
yeah,
Martinelli. If it wasn't for those lads, they'd be in a world of trouble. They've dragged them through some of the games. So I have backed Arteta, and I have seen the good things he's trying to do, but ultimately the job's too big. The job's too big. I think they've gone backwards, and I think unless they change in the summer or spend an absolute fortune, which I don't think they've got,
which they're not going to do,
then I think they're nowhere near it.
You go with Danny on that?
Oh yeah,
no, time's come.
I'm in the exact same place as Danny.
You were in the Arteta camp to start with.
Yeah, I was, yeah. But there's a difference between theory and practice. And in theory, Arteta looked like he ticked a lot of the boxes and spoke the way that I would want a manager to speak, and exhibited some of the traits that I thought would be part and parcel of rebuilding Arsenal. Team reflects leadership. Kroenke, Edu, their leadership over the support mechanisms that might have helped Arteta bridge the gap between where he is and where he wants to be aren't there. You know, we've discussed the state of Arsenal Football Club. We've discussed their policy. Whether Luiz has done okay doesn't make him a great signing. Whether Willian has been a good signing or not is another matter. He hasn't been, as far as I'm concerned, and I don't know why Arsenal would think signing players from a club that they want to supersede, who clearly don't want these players, is a methodology for being successful in its own right.
But is that necessarily true? Team reflects leadership.
Absolutely does.
Well, the Glazers have been at United for a long time, and they're still winning league titles while they were in charge.
Sure, and and Alex Ferguson was telling the world how much he enjoyed working for the Glazers, and to ensure that he got the financial support that he wanted.
But it came down to management.
It came down to the leadership, which at that particular time was a fully rounded, fully encompassed, all singing, all dancing football manager. Mikel Arteta isn't that. Mikel Arteta is learning within an environment which isn't strong enough for him to have the support mechanisms. He isn't strong enough as a manager. He doesn't have a great ownership structure. So Man United didn't have a great ownership structure with the Glazers, but they had a great manager who was all-encompassing. So the Glazers could sit there, leave him alone. Arteta is not in that position. Arteta's a different animal. So, and irrespective of what Man United fans want to hear or don't want to hear, there's still been a significant amount of their money, the club's money, not the Glazers' money, well, Glazers own the club, so ultimately it makes it their money, whether they like it or not, has been spent on acquiring players. Arsenal are owned by a billionaire that likes mediocrity, realises that being inside the top 4 is expensive, being outside the top 10 is also expensive. So here Arsenal sit in mid-table, 10th, 8th, 9th, 7th. I talked about it 3 years ago on Adrian Durham's show, but this is a club that will be out of Europe within 3 years. That is a arm's-length subsidiary of American businesses that Stan Kroenke owns. And here we are, 3 years later, they're out of Europe. And the embarrassment was at the hands of somebody that their fans hounded out of their club.
So you know what it's like about the chatter inside a boardroom. Why would that chatter be, let's get into next season with them?
Because I don't think they're sitting in a boardroom having a chatter. I think they're detached. I think they're sat there with the reality of the landscape. People are not really focusing on the landscape. People are focusing on the outrage of the European Super League. The landscape of football at this moment in time is brutal. The economics and finances of football are in big, big trouble, and it hasn't yet landed in some people's minds because they think it's all disappeared now. COVID-19. These clubs have lost 200-300 million quid. It's going to land somewhere, and there's going to be some casualties, whether it's in the Championship or whether it's ownership models or whether it's pulling back on the purse strings. But you know what? If you believe... If you're the blind leading the blind and you think Arteta is the solution because he won you an FA Cup last year and he creates less problems for you like Arsene Wenger did. Arsene Wenger knew every single year that they weren't going to win the Premier League because they perhaps had to sell their best player or weren't able to compete. Yet he managed to hold it together despite the backdrop of people piling on the last 2 years to get him out of the football club and keep putting them in the way of trophies, keep putting them in the way of Europe. And here we are now. All roads lead to a football Damascus. They have not got the intellectual capital in the boardroom that cares enough, and they haven't got it in the dugout that knows enough.
So to keep them there, Danny, it would only get worse before it gets better, in your view?
Just worse, I think.
Yeah, I think worse. I mean, the other thing is, of course, if you're talking about the financial restrictions now that will be in place for many clubs, to go and get a manager to walk into a club like Arsenal and improve them. If you look at Tuchel at Chelsea, I don't know what he'd be earning, but I'll be good. It'd be big money.
Yeah, it'd be 15 million quid.
Well, let's say it's 8 or 9. I mean, what are Arsenal paying Arteta that? I don't think so.
But that's not the question, Dan, though, is it?
Well, it is, because you're just talking about...
If you've got a wage bill, Dan, hold on just for 1 second and you come back at me. If you've got a wage bill that's 250 million quid, right, and you're paying a manager 7-8 million quid, that 8 million quid to get the best manager is not the consideration because you're already paying 250 over here on player salaries. So that's not going to be the driving factor. It's about whether you actually recognise that he ain't good enough.
Well, that's a fair point.
That's the bigger picture.
But my point was not just about the manager's wages. You're talking about, Simon, if a new manager walks through the door who's got some clouds, he's going to then want to rid of that
big bag of swag.
Yeah. So it's not just his wages, is it?
Yeah. No, it's what he wants after it. Yeah. Exactly right.
So it would seem Arteta goes into next season until we know different. That is the situation. We know with interest though that Daniel Ek is coming back in.
How can he?
How can he?
He was just got knocked out by the manager that they all hounded out the door and laughed at from Villarreal. Got knocked out, stole defeat from the jaws of victory after getting an away goal, right? Stinking the league out. How do you carry that particular can? I've been very critical of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and still remain dubious about his overall achievements, full stop. But at least some could say he's got a possibility of winning something.
It's progression.
And he's got progression.
Jim White and Simon Jordan, Monday to Thursday morning, 10 till 1. On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.